Hello everyone, welcome back to Code with Beto. I hope you're doing well. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to create beautiful animations for our items in our list utilizing React Native. This is going to be a fairly easy tutorial using React Native Reanimated as a library for creating these nice and smooth transitions and animations. And here we have a demo of what we're going to be building. As you can see on the right side, I have this iOS iPhone 14 simulator, and we have a bunch of items you can see here. And whenever I try to add a new one, we're going to have this nice and beautiful transition. And whenever I delete one or many, we can delete many, we have as well this animation to delete this card. And of course, on the left side, I have this Android device. You can see that this works as well on Android and iOS. And the information of the cards is just dummy data. Don't put too much attention on that. And this is just one animation, but we can use many animations. We can do like slide, fade in, rotation. Like in this case, this is the one with rotation. We can use slide down, bounce, many animations, and we're gonna see those in this tutorial as well. So make sure you stick till the end and like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always guys, if you want to download the code of this project, you can go to codewithbeto.dev/projects, and you're gonna find each project that we create in this tutorial completely for free. You can just come here and select the project you want, and then you scroll down and download the project or check it on GitHub. And now that you are here, make sure that you check out my React Native course if you want to master React Native. Although the course is in Spanish, we have English subtitles. So if you really want to do this course, you can use the subtitles in English if you don't speak Spanish. I'm working on translating it to English, but yeah, in the meantime, you can use the subtitles. And yeah, so now that it's out of the way, we can start creating this cool animated list. Okay guys, so we're gonna be using Expo for this tutorial. If you want to use the CLI, it's okay, it's gonna be the same. There's no big difference for this tutorial. And yeah, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is just go to my folder in which I want to create my new Expo project, and I'm going to run the command npx create Expo app. For this application, the title is gonna be just animated list, and then we can hit enter, and this is ready, so we can access the folder animated list. And once we are in this folder, we can start by installing the dependencies that we're gonna be using. And in this case, we're just gonna be using React Native Reanimated. So go ahead and install this dependency. It's gonna take a little bit. Yeah, that was super quick. So now we can open this on Visual Studio Code and start working. Okay guys, so we have our project open in Visual Studio Code, and because we're using Reanimated, we need to do a little bit of configuration here inside the babel.config.js file. So I'm going to add this line of code, which is plugins and React Native Reanimated plugin. Okay, so that's the only thing that we need to change. Now we can start the project by running the command npx expo start and hit enter. And this is going to start our project, and the application it's loading. So I'm going to close this babel config file, and I'm going to close the terminal as well. We're not going to be using it anymore. And while this is loading, I'm going to create a new folder called components, in which we are going to create our components, right? So we're going to have a list and we're going to have a card item. So let's create this components folder, and inside this components folder, we can start by creating the card list.js. And as well, we can go ahead and create the card.js, which is going to be the item that is going to hold the card, right? So now our project is finally ready. So I'm going to close my Explorer. I'm going to go to my app.js file, and I'm going to delete all these things that we don't really need. It's just the basic stuff that comes every time we create a new Expo app. And we can just leave it like this. And for now, we are going to return a card list, but we don't have this component yet. So let's go ahead and create this component. I'm gonna say export default function card list, and this component is going to return just a view for now from React Native, and you can see that it's getting automatically imported. We can go ahead and go back to the app.js file, and here we can say card list, and we can automatically import it from our components, right? Okay, so we need some data to create these cards, and this data is just static data that I'm going to paste inside this card list. And it's just 5 items, right? It's 5 movies, which have these links for random images. And it's a pretty simple array of objects, which has an ID, title, description, and poster.url. Now that we have this data, we can start iterating over this data. So this is going to be super easy. We can go back to this component, and inside this view, I'm going to start by creating a scroll view from React Native. And inside this scroll view, we can have another view, which is going to be the container for the items, right? And now inside this container, we can start actually iterating over the data. But we're going to be mutating this data. So we could say data.map, but because we want to be changing and adding items and deleting items, it's a good idea to create or use a hook called useState from React Native to be able to manipulate this data, right? So I'm going to say movies because the data are movies, and we need to say set movies. We're going to be using the hook useState. So I'm going to say useState, and it's automatically imported from React, and it's going to look something like this. Now in movies, we can pass the value to initialize these movies, which can be an empty array, or it can also be this data, whatever you prefer. For now, I'm going to say data. And let's go back to this view, and now we can start iterating over the data. I'm going to say data.map. I'm going to iterate for each movie, and for each movie, we're going to be rendering a card component. So before we do anything else in here, we need to go to the card component that we created and export it. So I'm going to say export default function card, and this component is going to return for now just a simple view from React Native. And we can, well, let's just leave it like that for now. Let's go back to the card list, and now we can just render a card like this. This card is automatically imported from the components, and we can also even abstract this a little bit more by deleting these parentheses and hit save. And well, it's automatically formatted, so let's leave it like that for now. Now let's go back to the card, and actually here we can pass all the information that we are receiving from each movie. Here we can pass it like this, movie. Sorry about that, movie. Cool. So we are destructuring everything that we have inside each movie, which is going to look something like this, each item. And we are passing everything to the card. Now in the card, we know that we are getting this information. So here we can say that we're gonna get a movie, and this movie, we know that it's an object, and we know that this object is going to come with some properties. So we can destructure these properties like this. It's going to come with an ID, a title, a description, and finally a poster URL. And this is all the information that we are getting. Now inside this view, we can simply have a text, for example, that prints the title like this, right? And if I hit save now, I'm gonna get an error because I'm not importing text from React Native. If I hit save now, you can see that we have some data here, right? And it's looking pretty strange, but let's just leave it like that for now. I'm going to duplicate this and print as well the description, and we can also add the image from React Native as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and import image from React Native, come back here and specify the source. The source can be a URI, and we have here the autocomplete. And for the URI, we're going to have the poster URL. Now, if I hit save now, we're not going to see the image. And this is because the image needs to have a style that specifies the width and height, right? So we can come down here and say styles equal to style sheet from React Native. And notice that it's automatically imported. We can say now create to start creating some styles. And let's go ahead and create the poster style for now. And I'm going to say width of, um, actually, I think if we don't specify the width, it's going to take 100%. Let's just specify the height, which I want it to be to 345 pixels. Let's come up here and say style equal to styles.poster. If I hit save now, you can see that we get some images and we have all this data, right? Now let's leave this like this for now. Let's go back to the card.js and change this view to be a safe area view from React Native. This is going to prevent the content from going outside the safe areas, right? Now we can see everything here. Perfect, it's looking good. Now, remember that this view is a container for these images and movies, right? So now inside this view, we can add a style. And because I'm feeling a little bit lazy, I can add this style in line. And I'm gonna say just padding horizontal to be 15 for now, or 18. And if we save this, it's going to look something like this. Now we can start adding some styles to the card to make it look good. Let's start with the poster. I'm going to change this to have width of 100% just to make sure that it's always going to take 100%, margin top of 20 and border radius of 14. Now it's looking like that. Now we can add some more styles here. I'm gonna add one for the card and I'm gonna name it card. To see what we are doing, we can add a border width of 1, hit save, and come back here and add this style.card to the view containing this card. Now that we are seeing the boundaries of each card, we can start adding some more styles. I'm gonna start by adding a border radius of 28, hit save. It's looking good. Now some of the content is getting out of the container of the card, so we can add a padding of 16 pixels, hit save, and now we are talking. It's looking so much better. Now I'm gonna say margin vertical to have some space between the cards of 30, hit save. Now I'm going to add this shadow, and we can create shadows in React Native like this. Shadow color is going to be black, and if I hit save now, you see that we are not seeing anything. And this is because we need to specify a background color, and the background of this card is going to be white. Once we specify the background color, the shadow is looking good. Now I'm going to delete this border so we can see the shadow, right? Now if I remove this background color, you're gonna see that the shadow disappears. It's there, but it's hard to notice it, right? So let's put back the background white. And now we have this beautiful card. Now we can start styling a little bit the title and description. So let's create a title style and a description style. And I'm gonna call it body. Now for the title, I'm gonna say font size of 26, font weight of 900 because I want my font to be heavy. This is going to be the color, and a margin bottom of 8. For the body, I'm going to have a font size of 14 because I want this font to be small. And now we can come up here and add these styles to the title and then to the body. So let's say style equal to styles.body, hit save. And now we have this nice design looking pretty good, right? Now we just need to start adding the animations and the magic for this scroll view. Let's go back to the card list and start by creating inside this safe area view a button that is going to help us to, and this button is from React Native, that is going to help us to add items, right? So the title is going to be add, and we can create another one to delete items. So if I hit save now, we should be able to see these buttons, and here they are. We have these two buttons. And this button component also takes a property called color. The color for this one is going to be red because it's delete, right? Now, let's create two functions that are going to help us to manage the items in the list. Let's start with the easy one, which is going to be the handle delete. Say handle delete, and this function is just gonna be a set movies. We want to set the movies to a new array, so that's why I'm putting this array. I want to put everything that movies has, but the first item I want to delete it. So I'm gonna say dot slice, and I want to slice this array starting at index 1, which means that the first item is going to be deleted, right? Perfect. So if I hit save now and now go back to this handle delete button here and say on press equal to handle delete, hit save. Now when I press delete, nothing is going to happen, and this is because we are not using movies, we are using data in here. So let's change that for movies, hit save, and now let's reload the application to see if we have the data. Okay, so we have the data and we have a warning that says that we need to specify a key for each item. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna say key equal to movie.id, right? Remember that each movie has an ID, so let's grab that and use it as key. Now, if we start deleting items, you can see that it's working, or function is working. Now let's create one to add a random card. So I'm gonna call this function handle add, and this function is basically going to generate a random IDX between 1 and 5, because if you remember, we have 5 items in this array of dummy data. So let's grab one of those randomly, and then once we have this IDX, we can add it to the current movies, right? We can generate a random number by saying math.random from JavaScript, but this number is going to be between 0 and 1. So we can multiply this by 5 to make sure that we have at least numbers between 0 and 5, right? Now we can say math.floor to floor this. Make sure that we don't have decimals, because as you know, we don't have decimals in the indices. And once we have this random IDX, we can just simply say set movies equal to a new array, and we want to add this new item. So let's graph everything that we have inside data at position random IDX, which is going to be basically an item from this array. But we want to change the ID, because if we don't change it, we're going to have an error, because we're going to have duplicates keys inside this array or this list of movies. So let's create another ID, and we can create an ID by just saying date.now.toString, right? And this is going to be a specific ID or a specific number or date that happened exactly in that moment, right? So let's use that as ID just for now. And then once we added this element, we can just simply put whatever we had already on the movies. Now, if I hit save now, and let's go back, and we can copy this on press handler and paste it here. But in this case, instead of handle delete, we can say handle add. Now let's go here and add some items. And as you can see, it's working. We are adding these cards, these items, and we can also delete. Now, how we can create these beautiful animations that we had at the beginning? Well, it's pretty easy with React Native Reanimated. So let's go back to the card and see how we can animate this. I'm going to start by importing here inside the card animated from React Native Reanimated. And now we can start by changing this view to be animated by saying animated.view. And we can copy this and paste it down here. Hit save. And now we can add animations to this view. It's that easy. Now let's say that we want to add an animation when an item is deleted. We want to translate everything else smoothly. So for that, we can import from animated something called layout. And now if we go back to the animated view, we can say layout equal to layout from reanimated dot stiffness and open parentheses. Make sure that you open parentheses. Now, if I come here and delete everything that I had already and create a new item, you can see that nothing happens when we create it. But when we add another item, because we have this property called stiffness, the items are aware of the surroundings or of the layout, and they are pushed, so they are smoothly transitioned to the new position. And we can see that here when we add and delete items. Cool, right? And super easy, just one line of code. Now, because we're gonna be adding some more animations, we can put this in a couple extra lines in here. And now we can also add something called entering. And this is going to run, or this animation is going to run when the component is mounted for the first time. So we can access to these animations, for example, roll in left. And you can see up here that is imported from React Reanimated. And if you want to learn more about these animations, you can go to the documentation of Reanimated. You're gonna see now that when I delete everything and let's start adding items again, we are having this entering animation of roll in left, right? And as you can imagine at this point, if we add exiting, we can say roll, but in this case, instead of roll in, we want to roll out, right? And it's automatically imported up here. And now we have this animation. And now if you pay attention, the ones that we had already, those don't have that animation. We can delete them and nothing is going to happen. But the new ones are going to have this animation. Perfect. And we can add many and delete them like this. And this is very performant. We have these animations running at 60 frames per second. And if you don't believe me, we can just show the performance monitor. It's really small, but you can see here a 60, and we can delete and add, and this 60 is never going to move. And I can add many items, and we can see that we have this 60 and never moves. And we can delete them very quickly, and nothing is going to be slow or just looking bad, right? Cool. So now let me hide this performance monitor. And I want to show you guys, lastly, before we go, we also have, like, for example, sliding animations, sliding down, sliding left. For example, let's say slide out right. And let's change this to be the entering, and this one, the exiting. Hit save, add, and you can see that we have this animation that easy. We can also add buttons on each card, and depending on of the card that you delete, we have an animation. But yeah, this is basically what I wanted to show you guys. We also have fade in, for example, fade in. Let's create a fade in for the entering. And we can also, for example, say fade out and hit save and change this to be fade out. So yeah, guys, so you can change this as you want. And we also have many animations. You can check out the React Native Reanimated documentation if you want to learn more. And this is pretty much, guys, what I wanted to show you. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something new. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions. If you want to check out this code, go to codewithbeto.dev. It's going to be posted over there in the projects. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.